Tonight here at home, family and friends of a 16-year-old who was shot to death last month gathered today not only to honor her, but to call for action.
Atlanta police say a teenage boy was arrested after the shooting at the Hyatt Regency, but as Fox 5's Alex Whitler reports, her family says that's not enough.
1 month ago today, a 16-year-old girl went to what her parents thought would be a chaperoned holiday party, and she never made it back home. Her parents question where the adults were during the violence and say they want to see more people face charges. Khalesia Williams' parents say their goal is simple.
We just want everyone to be arrested who has something to do with my daughter's death.
No justice, no peace. A group of more than 20 people gathered outside the Regency Tuesday to keep the teenager's memory alive.
Justice for Pinky!
December 26th, 16-year-old Khalesia, or Pinky as family calls her, went to a holiday party. Her parents say they were told an adult would look after a group of girls at an Airbnb.
She was responsible for getting the hotel room for these minors. The hotel room was in her name, so I feel like she should be held accountable for my daughter's death as well.
They didn't learn the group was staying at a Hyatt Regency until they received a horrific call the next day.
Like, this is the morgue. And I was like, the morgue? They was like, yes, ma'am. They was like, well, we're waiting on your daughter's body to come through. I'm like, whoa.
Khalesia's parents say that call didn't come until 8:45 a.m. The teen was pronounced dead at 12:23 in the morning, 8 hours prior.
It was just a lot of foul play, and I'm just trying to put all the pieces together because I don't feel like the system is doing enough work to help me.
Khalesia's mother says this is the last known video that shows her daughter alive. It shows her making a TikTok dance and appears startled when someone comes into the room. Within seconds, the video ends.
I want the surveillance footage of what happened. You know, who went in that room, who came out of that room, who was all there, what took place. I need to know what happened after she made that last TikTok video at 12:02 and she was dead at 12:23. I need answers from 12:02 to 12:23.
The demonstration lasted hours, and the family says it's just the beginning of their fight for Pinky.
We want answers! We want justice!
We're speaking to a woman who says she saw Pinky's final moments in the hotel lobby ahead at 11 on Fox 5 News Edge. Reporting in Atlanta, Alex Whitler, Fox 5 News.
Khalesia Williams was a 16-year-old girl full of life, laughter, and dreams. To those who knew her, she was a bright spark. Her TikTok videos a glimpse into her playful spirit, her love for dancing, and her hopes for the future. A high school student at South Atlanta High School, Khalesia had big plans. She had the world ahead of her, a young girl with endless possibilities. But on December 25th, 2020, Khalesia's future was stolen from her in the most tragic way. What was supposed to be a night of fun, celebration, and friends quickly turned into something else. A night that would end with her life. All it took was a simple disagreement with a friend. What started as a minor argument escalated with tragic consequences. By the end of the night, Khalesia was dead, her dreams shattered, her family devastated. This wasn't just another story. It's a story of innocence lost. A young girl, full of promise, gone too soon. Khalesia was a TikToker, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. She didn't deserve what happened that night. So, what happened? How did a holiday party, meant to be filled with joy, turn into a scene of horror? And why didn't anyone see it coming? Why didn't someone step in? Khalesia's death has left questions that her family, her friends, and the public are still trying to answer. Tonight, we look at the shocking details of what happened at the Hyatt Regency Hotel, and how a simple argument ended with a life taken too soon. Before we move forward, I'd like to take a moment to extend our deepest condolences to Khalesia's family, friends, and all those who loved her. No parent should ever have to endure the pain of losing a child, and no one should have to experience the heartbreak that comes with such a senseless tragedy. Our thoughts are with them as they continue to seek justice and find the strength to carry on in the wake of this devastating loss. Before we continue with the rest of this tragic story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from right now? Drop a comment below and let us know. It's always interesting to see where our viewers are tuning in from. Your thoughts and reactions to this case matter, so don't forget to share them as we dive deeper into what happened that night. Koecia Williams had been invited to a Christmas holiday party, a celebration among friends, something that should have been filled with laughter and joy. The plan was simple. An adult would host the event at an Airbnb, and there would be supervision to make sure everyone stayed safe. The night was supposed to be a chance for the teenagers to have fun, dance, and make memories, all while being watched over by responsible adults. But things took a turn. The venue changed. Instead of the Airbnb, the party was moved to the Hyatt Regency Hotel in downtown Atlanta. There were whispers about why the location was altered. Perhaps a last-minute decision or a mix-up with the reservation. But what was clear, as the details emerged, was that the change set the stage for everything that went wrong that night. The hotel was supposed to be just as safe, but questions lingered. The room Koecia and the others stayed in was reserved and paid for by another adult, someone who hadn't been in the picture initially. This raised more questions. Who was really in charge here? How was supervision going to work when no one seemed to have planned it properly? The change in location and the lack of clarity surrounding who was responsible for the teens left many uneasy, though at the time, no one could have imagined how things would unfold. Koecia, despite the shift in plans, was still eager to have a good time. She arrived at the hotel just like any other teenager would, ready to spend the night with friends. Around midnight, she set up her phone in the hotel room, preparing to record a TikTok video for her followers. It was a simple moment, a girl dancing and sharing a part of her life with the world, unaware that in just a few short minutes, everything would change. The room was filled with others, friends, acquaintances, some familiar faces and some not. One of those faces belonged to a teenage boy, someone Koecia knew. But as the night unfolded, it was clear that something was off. There was tension in the air, though it wasn't immediately obvious. The laughter that had filled the room earlier now seemed distant, replaced by an undercurrent of something far less innocent. As Koecia danced, her phone capturing the moment, the scene in the room felt subtle, yet unsettling. Everyone was still, as if they knew something was wrong, but no one was saying it. Koecia, focused on her video, didn't know that what seemed like a harmless party would soon turn into something none of them could escape. What happened next in that hotel room was something no one could have expected. It all started with a simple disagreement. Koecia and the teenage boy, who had been friends, found themselves at odds over something that at first glance seemed insignificant. A few harsh words, a raised voice, just a typical argument between two teenagers. These types of disagreements happen all the time, especially among friends. It's normal, it's relatable. But emotions were running high, and what could have been a simple exchange of words quickly grew more intense. In the heat of the moment, their argument escalated. It wasn't the first time they had disagreed, but something felt different that night. Maybe it was the confusion of being in a strange place, the uncertainty of who was really in control of the situation. Maybe it was the tension that had been building up all night. Whatever it was, things quickly went from bad to worse. One minute, Koecia was dancing for her TikTok, sharing a light-hearted moment with her followers. She was carefree, unaware that the room around her was beginning to shift. The next moment, everything changed. The boy, who had been a friend just hours before, was now involved in something far darker. The argument, once harmless, reached a breaking point. The details are unclear, but the violence that followed was sudden, uncontrollable. The sound of a gunshot rang out in the room. In an instant, Koecia, once full of life, was hit. She collapsed, her TikTok videos still running on her phone, the last image of her captured in the middle of a moment that should have been joyful. No one could have predicted what would happen next. The entire room froze, unsure of how to react. The chaos began, that panic set in. Some people rushed to Calicia's side, others just stood there, frozen, unsure of what to do. Two men, people who were there that night, were seen carrying Calicia's unconscious body. One held each leg, dragging her out of the room, all while they were whispering to each other. "She's been shot," one said. And yet, still, no one immediately called for help. There was a delay, a horrible delay. The confusion in the room was almost as loud as the gunshot itself. A few tried to act, but it was too late. Help arrived, but it wasn't soon enough. Calicia was already beyond saving by the time paramedics reached the scene. The whole thing unfolded so quickly, and no one seemed ready to react in time. It's hard to imagine what was going through their minds as they stood there, watching everything fall apart. Calicia's life was taken so suddenly, and those who witnessed it were left with the burden of that night. Questions lingering in the air about how it could have been prevented. Would things have been different if someone had stepped in sooner? Could the argument have been stopped before it reached that point? Could a life have been saved? Calicia's mother had trusted that her daughter would be safe that night. She had given her permission to attend the party, believing that the event would be supervised by adults, as any responsible gathering for minors should be. She had trusted the adults who were involved in organizing the event, assuming they would provide the care and oversight that any parent would expect for their child. But what Calicia's mother couldn't have known was that those who were meant to protect her daughter would fail in the most fundamental way. The adults, who should have been ensuring the safety of these young people, weren't there when things went wrong. The shift from the original location, the lack of proper supervision, and the absence of accountability created an environment where things could go terribly wrong. Calicia's mother later spoke of how she felt betrayed, not just by the boy who fired the shot, but by the very adults who were supposed to be overseeing the event. They let their guard down, and it cost her daughter everything. What makes it worse is that, in the moments after the tragedy, no one stepped forward to act quickly or with any sense of urgency. Calicia's mother didn't even know that her daughter had been shot until hours later. The family was left in the dark, with no information, no updates, nothing. For 8 long hours, Calicia's parents had no idea what had happened to their daughter. No one reached out to them. No one took the time to tell them that their world had just been shattered. When Calicia's mother finally received the call, it was already too late. The shock and anger were overwhelming. How could this happen? Why weren't they told sooner? The confusion and frustration grew as they tried to process what they were being told. Their daughter was gone, and yet they couldn't even get answers from those who should have been in control. They couldn't understand why it had taken so long for anyone to inform them, why no one had stepped in sooner to help their daughter. The silence from the adults involved added layers to the grief, making it harder to accept that such a tragedy could have been prevented. But what struck Calicia's family the most was the absence of immediate action when her body was found. Her lifeless form was discovered in the hotel lobby, a place that should have been a far cry from a scene of death. She was found, but the response that followed was disturbingly slow. Paramedics arrived, but by the time they did, it was far too late. The delay in the emergency response was another painful reminder of how little was done when it mattered most. The distressing reality of Calicia's last moments and the aftermath that followed is something her family will never forget. The lack of urgency, the failure of the people who were supposed to protect her, it all created an atmosphere of disbelief and anger. Calicia's parents were left to pick up the pieces, to demand answers, and to fight for justice, all while their grief was compounded by the delay in action that night. After Calicia's tragic death, the police began their investigation, working to piece together the events that led to the shooting. They quickly focused on the teenage boy who had been in the hotel room with Calicia. His identity was not a secret to those present that night, and the circumstances surrounding the incident quickly pointed to him as the one responsible. The authorities began by questioning witnesses, examining the evidence, and reviewing the details of the argument that had escalated into violence. The police charged the boy with several serious offenses, including felony murder, sexual assault, aggravated assault, and reckless conduct. The gravity of these charges made it clear that the incident was more than just a tragic mistake. The officers involved tried to make sense of the situation, but many questions remained. Was this really an accident? Or was there something more troubling behind the boy's actions? The community was left to wonder if this was a case of a teenager losing control, or if there was a deeper, more sinister motive behind the violence. As the investigation unfolded, those answers were not easy to come by. The arrest of the teenage boy did little to ease the pain for Calicia's family. The police moved quickly, and the boy was taken into custody. But for Calicia's family, the arrest was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. They were determined to see justice done, to make sure that the boy who ended their daughter's life faced the consequences of his actions. But when the legal process played out, the family's hope for justice began to fade. Calicia's family was devastated when they learned that the boy was sentenced to just 1 year in juvenile detention. For them, it felt like a slap in the face. The punishment didn't match the severity of the crime, and it left them feeling that the justice system had failed their daughter. A year, just 1 year, for taking the life of a young girl with so much potential. To the Williams family, it seemed like nothing more than a temporary setback for the boy who had ruined their lives forever. They felt frustrated and heartbroken, unable to comprehend how the system could be so lenient in the face of such a tragic loss. Calicia's family's grief was compounded by their anger at the legal system. They didn't understand how someone could take their daughter's life and face such a light sentence. The frustration they felt was palpable. They had to live with the reality that Calicia was gone forever, and yet the person responsible would walk free in just a year's time. The pain was unbearable, and the fight for justice wasn't over. It had only just begun. Calicia's death didn't just leave a hole in her family. It rippled through the lives of her friends, her schoolmates, and the entire community. A young girl full of promise was taken in an instant, and the grief felt by her loved ones was overwhelming. But it wasn't just a personal loss. It became a stark reminder of a larger issue. Who is responsible for ensuring the safety of teenagers, especially at events meant to be supervised? Calicia's death raised difficult questions about the level of care and attention that should have been in place, and how easily a small, preventable disagreement can spiral into tragedy when no one is there to step in. The impact was felt far beyond her immediate family. Her friends who had watched her grow up were left grappling with the loss of someone they cared about deeply. The community, once a place of safety, was now marked by the tragedy of a life lost too soon. And still, the lingering questions persist, questions that no one has been able to answer. Why did no one step in earlier? Why wasn't there proper supervision? How could such a simple argument escalate so quickly? Could this tragedy have been avoided? Was there a point when someone could have intervened before things reached the point of no return? These questions hang in the air unanswered as Calicia's family continues to search for answers. And as the fight for justice presses on, Calicia's family still wonders, who else should be held accountable? The boy who fired the shot? The adults who failed to protect her? Or perhaps the system itself, which allowed this to happen in the first place? These questions may never fully be answered, but they will always remain, haunting the memories of those who knew Calicia and fighting for a truth that remains elusive. After the boy was sentenced to just 1 year in juvenile detention, Calicia's family was left stunned. Their daughter's life, full of potential and promise, was gone forever, and yet the boy who took it would face only the briefest of consequences. After serving only 1 year, he was released back into the world, free to continue his life, while Calicia's family struggled with the weight of their loss. The grief they felt was compounded by the anger that surged through them. 1 year. It wasn't enough. It didn't feel like justice. How could the legal system allow someone to take the life of a child and walk away with so little? For Calicia's family, it was as if her life didn't matter, as if her story didn't carry the weight it deserved. The emotional toll this took on the family was unbearable. The anger and frustration they felt with the system only deepened as they came to terms with the reality that the boy who had ended their daughter's life was walking free. Calicia's parents began to realize that their fight for justice wasn't over. The system had failed them once, and they couldn't let it happen again. They had to push forward, no matter how painful it was. Their daughter's death wasn't just a statistic, it was a tragedy. And they were determined to make sure that it wasn't forgotten. In response to the legal outcome, Calicia's family started a petition demanding justice, not only for Calicia, but for others who might be affected by the failures of the system. The petition called for a more severe punishment for the boy, and for those adults who were supposed to be supervising the event to be held accountable as well. The public, too, rallied behind the family, with many people outraged by the legal outcomes and the lack of responsibility shown by the adults involved. We want to know what you think about the justice or lack thereof in this tragic story. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you don't miss any of our future content.